The city's public libraries come under fire from the Director of Audit. An investigation is underway into yesterday's fatal fall of a cleaner down a Kwun Tong lift shaft. And a poll suggests the majority of Americans don't want Biden or Trump to run in the 2024 presidential election. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The city's public libraries have come under fire from the Audit Commission for failing to efficiently process new books and expand their collections. The audit report also pointed out that the Leisure and Cultural Service Department needs to speed up its work in processing materials that may be in breach of the national security law. Veronica Lin has the story.
As of the end of last year, the city has over 15 million books in 85 libraries, while new books are added from time to time to provide more choices for readers. But a new report from the Audit Commission found the number of new books added to the public library collection fell short of the Leisure and Cultural Services Department's plan. For instance, the number of new Chinese books for adults added to libraries was 28% lower than expected. It has also been an uneven distribution of books. Some libraries only received half of the books they had asked for, while others received twice the amount they had requested. In addition, the audit report also pointed out that the Leisure and Cultural Services Department took too long to process new books. Also, procedures such as cataloging and packing did not have specific target time frame. Around 40% of the books took longer than planned to be delivered to the libraries, with some requiring up to 14 days. The report also found that 36% of the books' organizing time exceeded the target time, with some taking up to 3 months. Nearly half of book bindings were overdue, taking an average of 48 days, half a month longer than the target time. After the national security law came into effect, about 380,000 items were listed as temporarily not available for public use, while 2.7 million were no longer available at the end of January. 75% of such items remained in those categories for more than a year. The audit report urged the review to be completed soon. The LCSD agreed with the Audit Commission's suggestions and explained that the library's procurement volume depends on many factors, including the needs and utilization rates of library branches. As for books related to the national security law, the department said it's difficult to set a target time to finish reviewing the books, as it receives complaints from time to time. Meanwhile, the audit report pointed out that the Education Bureau should repair and improve flagpoles in schools in a timely manner. Starting last year, the national flag has to be raised in secondary and primary school on every school day, New Year's Day, the handover ceremony, and National Day. The Bureau in the 2022 to 2023 fiscal year approved 123 flagpole installation applications. Among them, 41 were withdrawn by the schools, and in the remaining 82 projects, 22 have yet to be completed. The Bureau says they will expedite the process. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
Secretary for Security Chris Tang, currently on a visit to Beijing, was asked by reporters today about a Labor Day rally application being withdrawn by its organizers. The press also asked whether the organizers were warned against holding the event on national security grounds.
I think, first of all, for the reasons of the withdrawal, I think probably you have to ask the individual organizer for the reasons. But I think if someone is unable to ensure the safety of any public order events or to ensure the orderly running of the events, it is a responsible act to withdraw the application.
Former Confederation of Trade Unions leader Joe Wong and member Denny To had applied for a letter of no objection from the police for a 500-strong rally on Labor Day. Denny To wrote on a website that after Wong was taken away by police, the pair decided to withdraw their application, citing emotional distress. To added that he couldn't share details due to Article 63 of the National Security Law. A cleaner plunged 30 floors down a lift shaft to his death while at work in Kwun Tong last night. Initial investigations suggest the escape door of a lift had been opened, which may have led to the tragedy. Jackie Lin reports.
The high-angle rescue team from the Fire Services Department recovered the body in the lift shaft of this office block on Haoming Street, Kwun Tong, with paramedics and police officers on standby. The tragedy occurred at around 6 p.m. on Tuesday. The Fire Services Department said the 73-year-old cleaner was declared dead at the site, and it took them quite some time to retrieve the victim's remains at the bottom of the lift shaft. Preliminary investigation suggested there was no malfunction with the lifts involved, but the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department said the escape door of the lift had been opened. It's understood the escape door is usually locked and doesn't have to be cleaned by workers. Poon Sukhyun of the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers said the accident was unusual and the cleaner might have mistakenly opened the escape door in darkness. He said there should be clearer indications of the escape door or an alarm system in place when the exit was opened to prevent such accidents in future. Also, the victim was not wearing a reflective vest when he plunged to his death. This, as a recent amendment to the Occupational Safety and Health Ordinance, is set to take effect this Friday. Under it, the maximum penalty for offenders will be raised to $10 million. Siu Si Man, chief executive of the Association for the Rights of Industrial Accident Victims, said she is saddened by the accident. She said employers, stakeholders, or any individuals found to have violated safety guidelines should receive severe penalties to underscore authorities' commitment to occupational safety. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The 9th Anti-Chamber Exchange session took place at the Legislative Council today, where some lawmakers suggested the government adopt mainland innovations, such as the Sky Shuttle and construction robots. The LegCo members hope such innovations will solve several of the city's traffic and workplace-related problems. Timothy Lee reports.
At the Legislative Council this morning, lawmakers and senior government officials held informal discussions during the 9th Anti-Chamber Exchange session. Much of the conversation revolved around their recent trip to the Greater Bay Area. Many lawmakers attended the 9th Anti-Chamber Exchange session led by Financial Secretary Paul Chan today, during which LegCo members shared insights towards land development and fintech innovation. Transport and Logistics Secretary Lam Sai Hong also spoke about his views on Hong Kong's adoption of mainland transport innovations. They include the BYD Sky Shuttle, a rail transit system that some lawmakers believe will alleviate the city's traffic congestion.
We'll contact a Sky Shuttle to collect all relevant information and statistics, such as the technical information, or the operation details, the safety records, so that we can further analyze the applicability of Sky Shuttle in Hong Kong.
We keep an open mind as to different mode of transport and different technology. So it will be assessed against the specific and unique situation in Hong Kong.
Some lawmakers suggested using the Sky Shuttle system in the proposed East Kowloon line that connects Choi Hong to Po Lam. Another topic of discussion was the introduction of construction robots, which some lawmakers believe could reduce industrial accidents. Secretary for Housing Winnie Ho said she hopes the city's construction sector can introduce more technology and innovations while working with the mainland. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
As U.S. President Joe Biden formally announced Tuesday he is running for re-election in 2024, a poll suggests that the majority of Americans don't want Biden or Trump to run. 70% of Americans say they think Biden shouldn't run, including 51% of Democrats. Biden is asking voters to give him more time to finish this job and extend the run of America's oldest president for another 4 years. Tracy Furness has more.
Shortly after President Biden formally announced he is running for re-election in 2024 on Tuesday, he found a receptive audience with union members in Washington.
Let's go, Joe! Let's go, Joe! Our economic plan is working. We now have to finish the job, but there's more to do.
In Biden's 3-minute campaign announcement, he depicted Republican extremists as trying to roll back access to abortion, cut Social Security, limiting voting rights, and banning books they don't like.
Freedom, personal freedom, is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred.
In response to Biden's candidacy Tuesday, former President Donald Trump released a video taking aim at damage he's caused.
protect our rights.
Biden has totally humiliated our nation on the world stage, starting with the Afghanistan disaster, perhaps the most embarrassing event in the history of our country. It meant so much to our enemies when they watched that horrible retreat. Russia is teaming up with China. Iran is days away from a nuclear bomb, not even thinkable. Ukraine has been devastated by an invasion that would never, ever have happened if I was president. And Joe Biden has led us to the very brink of World War III. They say
if Trump is nominated the Republican candidate for 2024, it would be the first time in recent memory a losing president has run again.
It'd be unprecedented in the sense that neither Gerald Ford nor Jimmy Carter nor George H.W. Bush ran for president after they had lost their first reelection bid. And so this would be the first time that it's happened in recent memory.
But analysts say that Biden should not focus too much on Trump in order to win voters.
And if they focus too much on Trump, which is pretty an easy way of doing things, I think it makes them more vulnerable. They have to explain what Biden has already done for the American voter and what keeping him in office will continue to provide for the American voter.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A nearly 30-year-old rape claim against former U.S. President Donald Trump went to trial in New York Tuesday. Jurors in the federal civil case heard a former advice columnist's allegation of being attacked in a luxury department store dressing room. The former president says nothing happened between them. E. Jean Carroll will testify what unfolded in a few minutes in a fitting room in 1996 would change her life forever, her lawyer told the court. Filled with fear and shame, she kept silent for decades. Eventually, though, silence became impossible, she continued. Carroll broke her silence in a 2019 memoir. Trump, who wasn't in court but hasn't ruled out testifying, has called Carroll a nut job who fabricated the rape claim to sell her book. South Korean President Yoon Sukhyun, speaking in the United States, has said the Seoul-Washington alliance should evolve into a supply chain and future-oriented innovative technology alliance. Today, he will hold a summit with U.S. President Joe Biden. Matthew Bray reports.
Yoon Suk-yeol opened his state visit to America with a visit to a NASA facility in Maryland. The two countries signed a statement on cooperation in space.
South Korea will soon fly payloads through NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program. We look forward to expanding our collaboration on the Artemis program, which will return astronauts to the moon for the first time in 50 years and lay the groundwork for our mission to Mars.
Even before Yoon's official six-day itinerary got underway, two large deals were announced: General Motors and Samsung SDI for a $3 billion electric vehicle battery cell plant in the US, and with Netflix to invest heavily in Korea on programming for the growing market for Korean content.
양국의 경제계 리더 여러분.
Later, Yoon, speaking at an event hosted by the US Chamber of Commerce, said the South Korean-US alliance should leap into a new phase to jointly overcome complex crises. What he meant was moving the alliance closer together technologically to build more resilient supply chains, and what he termed reaffirm their status as true allies. Yoon has come to America with 120 executives from South Korea's biggest companies, including Samsung's J.Y. Lee and Hyundai Motor Group's chief executive. In the evening, Yoon and his wife, with the Bidens, visited the Korean War Veterans Memorial. The circular wall of remembrance is inscribed with the names of the more than 36,000 Americans and 7,000 plus Koreans who were killed while serving in the conflict. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
Chinese state television CCTV reported that President Xi Jinping has spoken on the phone with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. They exchanged views on bilateral relations and the crisis involving Ukraine. Xi said China's position is for peace and that the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia should take place. We will have more details on the news roundup later tonight. And still ahead. Former Sudanese leader Omar al-Bashir's whereabouts unclear after a prison holding him came under attack. And locally, a plan to reuse some 3 million returned vehicle license numbers. Welcome back. The United Nations has told the generals in Sudan to silence the guns. This as expats and Sudanese continue to flee the fighting. A prison holding former leader Omar al-Bashir has been attacked. The whereabouts of the ex-president and his close associates are unclear in another illustration of the chaos and confusion. David Garrett reports.
These are the indirect casualties of the fighting in Sudan. These sick people need kidney dialysis, but travelling between hospitals has become too dangerous. These patients may not survive unless there is an end to the violence. And it is for people like this, innocent civilians caught in the crossfire, that the UN is trying to broker peace. The Security Council was told in no uncertain terms the situation in the country is fragile.
The two generals continue trading accusations and issuing competing claims of control over key installations. There is yet no unequivocal sign that either is ready to seriously negotiate, suggesting that both think that securing a military victory over the other is possible.
These 10 days of violence and chaos are heartbreaking. A prolonged, full-scale war is unbearable to contemplate.
The Secretary-General spoke directly to the two men fighting for control.
Generals Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, Hemeti, and the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to silence the guns. It is incumbent on Sudanese leaders to put the interests of their people front and center.
China's permanent representative Zhang Jun echoed what the Secretary-General said. Zhang called for a ceasefire, saying the fighting pains China, a good friend and a partner of Sudan. Away from the talks, airlifts out of the war zone continue. These UK citizens landed in Cyprus on their way home. They were on a plane belonging to the Royal Air Force. But Britain's still in Khartoum have been told to make their way to a dedicated airfield for the next plane out.
It's a complex operation and many challenges faced. We're working with UK and partner nations in order to successfully extract the people of Sudan back to safety.
In another development, the exact location of ex-President Omar al-Bashir is unclear. The Rapid Support Forces broke into his prison, facilitating the escape of inmates. The army say Bashir, detained on corruption charges, was moved to a military hospital prior to the jailbreak. But reports say associate Ahmed Haroun is free. He was serving a sentence alongside al-Bashir and is wanted by the International Criminal Court for atrocities in the Darfur region. David Garrett, TVB News.
And back at home, the Transport and Logistics Bureau said some 3 million return vehicle license numbers could be reallocated to the public after the numbers currently being used run out. This as authorities estimate car plate numbers with the last prefix ZZ would begin distribution around the end of 2024 or early 2025. After the current series of vehicle registration marks are all allocated, the government will start allocating the 3 million license plate numbers that were returned to them earlier. That will start with prefixes WA and WZ. And that's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.